Tony Schiavone was back in the ring. Now we know we're in trouble again. And he started to introduce FTR when suddenly out came Stokely Carmichael and interrupted him. And we have not
Hathaway.
seen.
Stokely Hathaway.
Huh?
Stokely Hathaway.
Stokely, what'd I say?
Carmichael. This is no revolutionary. This is Stokely Hathaway.
Well, no, he's not Stokely freaking Carmichael. He's not a revolutionary or an
Revolutionary.
a disciplinarian. But anyway, Stokely came out and he interrupted and he gave FTR the big introduction. Okay, yes, they've turned heel. But how does this happen? How did it happen? Has Stokely been on TV in a year? Has he ever been a top manager? Or did he just manage groups of people that he could do some cute little promos with and they'd do some backstage stuff? Has he ever been figured in a main event picture?
I think the last time we saw him, he was managing a heel Chris Statlander against Willow Nightingale, and then he just disappeared off TV.
So now you've got a babyface tag team as former champions, and they turn on their best friend, who's Edge, who's formerly a major star in this industry, and they come out with a manager that's underneath manager. And that's not even, I'm not evaluating his talent. I'm saying how he's been presented. Could nobody have thought ahead 4 to 6 weeks where at least you would be able to do something with this guy, where to refamiliarize people that, oh yeah, that was a guy on TV a couple of years ago. Well, maybe we don't want him to remember that. Who do we want him to think he is now? How do we want them to think about him now? So let's bring him out and have him do something to interact with some main event talent and be taken seriously, so that then when finally he lands with FTR, they go, oh, a big deal has been done. So Stokely cut the promo. He can talk. Upset that FTR got fined for doing less than anybody else ever had, like arson, attempted murder.
He had a good point.
Yeah, and in the process, he reminded fans of all the stupid, silly, fake shit that everybody has done. And then they're trying to do a wrestling angle where they get fined for punching a referee or whatever. That's why your booking universe needs logic. So Stokely's their new agent. And meanwhile, Tony Schiavone just turned it over to him, has been standing in the corner staring off into the seats. And Stokely tells him, get up here and do your job. So Tony walks up, grabs the microphone, and just sticks it out in Cash's face and looks away like, I'm doing this under duress. It's not your job, motherfucker, to do shit under duress. You're supposed to be the person in charge of the program from the announcer standpoint, not a guy, I'm going to stick the microphone over here. It's just an amateur hour production. Then Cash promoted Danny Garcia. Nobody cares. Nobody gives a shit about that guy. And then Dax starts cutting a promo and calls the Rock and Roll Express into the ring that we saw for 5 seconds applauding in the previous segment at the railing. And the fans start chanting a little bit, rock and roll, rock and roll. But I'm going to tell you what they did, and then I'm going to tell you what was wrong with it and what they could have done to fix it here in a second. But Dax interviewed the Rock and Roll Express, and he did the deal Roddy Piper used to do. He'd ask him a question, and then he'd answer it for him. And basically, well, for Ricky, he wasn't even trying to interview Hoot because nobody would have believed Hoot was going to talk. But he would ask him a question, and he's automatically, Dax has been, well, first of all, when he called him in the ring, they're out sitting in the front row. And he called him in the ring as a heel, which, Brian, would you have fallen for that? Because couldn't you see this coming a mile away? Oh, we're legends that have been stuck in the crowd. So this newly turned heel team is going to fucking call us in the ring and beat us up. But they call him in, and then that's when Dax does the thing where he ask Ricky a question, then answer it again, and being heelish right off the bat. And they're just standing there like they're waiting for the time it's going to come where they get beat up. And then Dax said, well, the Midnight Express was better, and you guys are about 100 years old. And finally, Ricky bowed up at Dax a little bit. But Stokely showed him the Legend Killer shirt, and then FTR jumped him and nailed Robert, and Robert's got a bad back, so he went down and stayed there. They just punched him, and he, boom, I'll be over here. And they gave Ricky a spike pile driver. And then Adam Cole, Roderick Strong, and Kyle O'Reilly hit the ring, and the heels bailed out. Could you see through this a mile away?
Yes. They telegraphed every single... You could argue they telegraphed the Rock and Roll Express's involvement just by showing them sitting at this wrestling event where they had tickets for in New Orleans, nowhere near where either of them live. But yeah, I mean, you know, they did the FTR heel turn, and since then they did the thing where they tried to pile drive Tony Schiavone, and they're beating up the Rock and Roll Express. Randy Orton was the Legend Killer. The name works for him. I personally wasn't a big fan of the idea of having legends come to the show every week just so they can get beaten up by someone who's much younger and better shape. Again, it's a different animal here, but if they're making t-shirts with it, if this is going to be their thing, they just beat up old wrestlers for no reason. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of that. And by the way, if Stokely's their new manager, why did both guys cut the longest promo they've ever done right after it? Here's our new manager. Say something for a second. Now we'll talk for 10 minutes.
Now we'll take over. But here again, it's not that hard if you have the pieces to put them together in the proper order. And the Rock and Roll Express, that could have been easily solved. If 20 minutes beforehand on the television show, going to another commercial or whatever, they had 1 minute of footage where, and here's earlier today at a autograph session outside in the breezeway of the UNO Lakefront Arena, there's the legends Ricky Morton and Robert Gibson, the Rock and Roll Express. They were at the very first wrestling event held at the UNO Lakefront Arena back in 1984 when they were the Mid-South Tag Team Champions, and they were here today as part of a special meet and greet. We salute them, the Rock and Roll Express. Boom, go to break, come back, don't mention them again. But then when this segment comes up, as I said, I have an issue with Stokely just suddenly being with FTR to begin with, but nevertheless, when they're in the ring, FTR and Stokely, then that's when, if Dax is going to talk, he could have said, hey, you know what? We are here as the greatest tag team in AEW. Now we have the greatest agent. We want the World Tag Team Championship. Now that we're free from some of our former friends like that no good Adam Copeland or whatever, but we've always said that we are throwbacks to the old days when tag teams were tag teams. And as a matter of fact, the Rock and Roll Express are sitting there at ringside, and it's no secret we patterned ourselves after the 80s tag teams in the glory years like the Rock and Roll Express, the Midnight Express, and Tully Blanchard and Arn Anderson. Rock and Roll Express, why don't you guys come in here? Because I happen to know that all of you legends think that we're the greatest tag team in the business today. Come in here and tell them how great we are. And then Ricky and Robert could come in, and Dax could say, go ahead, tell them how would we do all this so much better than you guys did back in the day. And that we're the only one that has taken that and done something better with it, blah, blah, blah. And let Ricky just say, look, you guys are a great tag team, but I don't think you would have made it back in the 80s because you ain't got the guts to stand by a friend. Because me and Robert have had fights, but back in the end, we'd always be back to back, fighting off whoever was messing with us, and all the things that Adam Copeland did for you, and you turned on him, I'd be out there mowing his grass. I don't think you guys have the guts to be great in the 80s. And then let Dax and Cash beat him up. And then Is it going to be somehow that the three of Adam Cole and Roderick Strong and Kyle O'Reilly are going to be in the next tag team program with FTR? That might make it even. Or is Stokely going to have to put the tights on? Why would you not have the team that is going to be the next opponents of FTR save the Rock and Roll Express from the attack by FTR? Is it because they don't have any goddamn idea who it's going to be?
Well, again, Adam Cole ran out too wearing his, he's the, what is he? He's the TNT champion, I guess, now. And they promote Daniel Garcia here. So who knows who they'll be wrestling or teaming with. You would think,
but
Ricky,
I mean, does
you would think Ricky and Robert need to come back, but Ricky Morton still sells better than every single person there. However old he is, 70 years old, whatever it is, he still sells better than everyone.
But does that make any sense on how to just establish somebody's in the building on an unrelated incident and how not to make them look stupid when they walk into a trap and just to have some type of continuity to the whole thing?
Yeah, because you're right. And we've seen a lot of baby faces looking stupid recently. But when they called the Rock and Roll Express into the ring, you had to know this wasn't good. Like Ricky and Robert had to know that.
Yeah, well, and we all did too, and it wasn't good. But speaking of not being good.
How do you feel about just the Midnight Express being used in that fashion? You know, good or bad, you know, you're not as good as the Midnight Express.
Oh, well, I mean, that's a kind of a natural line you'd hit the Rock and Roll Express with. It'd be like, you know, the same thing with the University of Louisville and the University of Kentucky. If you want to blister Kentucky, well, you ain't as good as the Cardinals or vice versa. It's a rivalry that people would know in the given field. I don't have a problem. And also everybody still talks about us because of the magnitude of us. By cracky. We wouldn't have fallen for that if they'd asked us to get in the ring. We would have given them the finger and walked out and got a hot dog.